All right, you have your first year basic maths paper on Feb 2nd. Hopefully, that's your last paper and the most important paper because if you see the results in terms of failure rates or pass rates, maths is the most difficult exam, not only in diploma, in pretty much all the curriculums. And I know most of you guys might be scrambling to work hard and get the last paper out and at least clear the paper. But what should be your defining strategy for the last 48 hours in terms of your exam prep? And how should you have an exam strategy? Specifically, you're going to have an MCQ, and hopefully, this will be the last MCQ for this season, and the colleges are going to open up. And let's pray for that so that we can get back to our regular life. So, let's understand what's happening on the exam strategy and how should we think about that. Okay, so let's first things first. So what do we know about the MCQ pattern based on what I've seen and read on the MSBTE website? What I understand is your MCQ is going to be for 40 marks roughly, or maybe 1 mark per question, and you can attempt, or you will have to attempt 35 questions. The duration is going to be 60 minutes. And the good news is, even if you attend more than 35 questions, let's say you attend all the 40 questions for 40 marks, and your best of your 35 is going to consider not the first 35, but whatever is the best scoring for you that works in your favor, that's going to be considered. So that's a great plus point for you. So you should attend and definitely attend all the 40 marks. And that's a recommendation here. If you see it in red, whatever is in red, you should just pay double attention to that. You answer all the 40 to get maximum insurance on clearing your paper or on scoring, whatever your goal is. Most of the folks just want to clear the paper. Some people want to score well. So whatever is the goal, attend all the 40 questions. Okay, let's keep moving. Now let's talk about the answering mechanism. This is one of the visuals I got from some YouTube or some Google. This is how the online screen is going to look like. So just don't worry about this part. Focus on only this part. So if you see, there are 40 questions arranged here. 40 questions arranged here sequentially from 1 to 40. And then whichever question you're going to click or you're going to attend automatically, either you can click any of this randomly, or if you're just going to select attend a question and save and do a save next, you're going to go to the next question sequentially. So you can do it randomly from here using your mouse, or you can go sequentially. But regardless of that, whatever question you're going to select, that's going to be highlighted in red so that you know what is the active question. And it's always going to show one question at a time on the screen. So one question at a time. And that's you would have already known because you must have attended at least 2 MCQs by now. And at the bottom, it shows how many of the questions you have already attempted, how many are not attempted over here, and how many you attempted but you kept for review for later. Okay, so that's going to be your answering mechanism. So let's review the key points on how you should think about that. Okay, the first thing is you can always save the answer and change it for later. That means you can save your answer, select some answer here. Let's say you have A, B, C, D, and you're not sure and you want to come back to that. Let's say you select this answer and you can save and you can click this for reviewing it later. So once you have time, over here it will show you attempted and kept for review based on what you select here. So you can always come and double check the answer, and if you want to correct, you can correct. So that's one aspect of that. Okay, and that's what this is about. You can save the answer and change it later. You can mark it for review. And like I said, you can directly click a question number, answer it. For example, you don't have to go through this next or previous. You can directly come here and click any of the question. Let's say you're on 1, but you want to check out all other questions. You want to check out what is 18. You can click on that and directly come here. And if that option is enabled, which I think will be enabled based on this software, that is the best option. And I'll tell you why. Because what you can do is you don't have to sequentially go through each question and see what's going on. So what you can do is you can just straight away jump into questions based on the topics you're prepared. And if the question is not fitting into that, you can skip that. For example, let's say you decide that you want to attend all the questions on matrices first because you think that's one topic that you prepared well, okay? And you don't know where the matrices questions are going to be. So you can just click on each of the question, and if it doesn't look like a matrice question, you can skip and move to the next one. And from here 1 to 40, you can browse all the matrices questions, solve that, and then go back to the next. That's a big advantage, and I think that is a strategy you should adopt based on how you're prepared. And like I said, you have the dashboard above to check the overall status, all of this. that we discussed in the beginning, right? How many you have selected, what is your current question, how many you have to attempt. Always keep an eye on this so that you know where you are. So that's kind of the more or less on the answering mechanism. Let's see what do we have else. Okay, the most important thing. Let's talk about the weightage and what can we expect in the MCQ. If you take the traditional offline exam where we have the 70 mark theory pattern for I scheme, this is the typical weightage, and I've arranged this weightage in the descending order of weightages. The chapters I've arranged in terms of the descending orders. So if you, and by and large trigonometry, if you have seen my videos, trigonometry holds the highest weightage. And going forward in the next mode onwards, mostly you might have offline exam if the pandemic subsides. So again, trigonometry will have maximum questions. And if you see the way I put 26 by 30, what does it mean is trigonometry, the total questions, including the options, based on that, you might get 30 marks worth of questions from trigonometry. And out of that, you can attain at the most 26 marks. So the interesting thing is, like I've told in the trigonometry video, in the regular theory, the passing marks is 28 marks out of the 70. And even if you just do trigonometry properly, you can always have 26 marks coming straight from trigonometry, and the remaining 2 marks, you can get it from any of this chapter to make it to 28. So that's an interesting piece, but that's for the different note when we get to our offline mode. But today we are just going to focus on the MCQ part, okay? The matrices and determinants, again, it comes for 20, its worth is 20 marks in this 70 mark paper. Statistics, for the most of it, it's 16 marks, and the reason I put asterisk is in 1 or 2 papers, it has gone up to 20 marks worth of questions. So that's why I put an asterisk, but mostly on a consistent basis is 16 marks. Straight line is 12 marks. Mensuration, again, it's 10 marks. Again, it's an asterisk because in one of the papers, it went all the way to 14 marks. So that's when I put the asterisk. Partial fraction is 8 mark. And the most little puppy, the poor guy, is logarithmic for 2 marks. That's how the weightages are typically for the theory exam when you do it in offline paper. Although the weightage as per the syllabus is slightly less than this, but if you actually check the paper, this is the right weightage in terms of how many questions appear, including the options and including how many you can attempt. Okay, so that's on the theory pattern. But let's try to see what would be the MCQ pattern based on this. So the first assumption I would safely make is whatever is the weightage for theory for 70 mark, you should assume even for the MCQ, it will be a proportionate weightage. So the weightage overall per chapter is not going to change. What does it mean? In the theory world, if trigonometry has the highest weightage with most of the number of questions coming from trigonometry, you should safely assume even for the MCQ pattern, although it's for 40 marks, roughly more than 50%, this is 70 here, this is 40 here, you should safely assume the MCQ will also have a relative weightages proportional to this. It's not going to change much. That's the first assumption. So that way, that's the reason I put the weightage for the theory paper for 70 marks so that you can understand what is the weightages that you can expect and how much importance you should give to each of the chapters based on the weightage. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, since it's going to be an MCQ mostly for 1 mark, you are not going to get much of time consuming questions over here. That's a good news. That's why it's in green. You're not going to get questions for 1 mark. They're not going to ask you to solve questions that might be worth 4 marks in the theory paper. Whatever you can get for 4 marks here, where some of the exam problems can be, the solutions might be 1 or 2 page long. You're not going to typically get those kind of questions for the most of it. I'm not saying necessarily true because some questions might be like that, but for 1 mark, I think they will be cognizant enough to give you questions that are not that lengthy. So we have covered this, we have covered this. Some of them, by nature of it, although the answer could be tricky or it can be solved if you know the formula very well and it will not take time, but most of the students struggle because they are not quick in maths, the formula is not clear, they are doing calculation mistake. In those exceptions, it could take time to solve the problem, although it may not be worth for 1 mark. For 1 mark, they are giving you too much, but it might come, and let's tackle that later in the video when I cover the other topics. So let's worry about that. The bad news, why MCQs are bad news for certain cases is you're not going to get questions where you have to prove left hand side is equal to right hand side And I call this as student friendly questions because the beauty is the answer is already given in the question. For example, let's say prove that cos of something is equal to some value. Okay, that means you know that value has to be this. So whatever you do, whatever gimmick you do, whatever magic you do, the answer has to be 1/4. So you know those things, and those things are not going to be in objective questions in MCQ pattern, and that's a bad news where you can trick, you can manipulate, you know the answer, you have to just make sure that you are arriving at the answer ahead of time. Those parts you cannot do. That's the only bad news. But let's figure out this MCQ may not last for long, so let's not worry about that for now. Let's focus on the good news and how we can crack. So that's the weightage equivalent of that. So the next thing, okay, now we have got 7 chapters in the weightage over here. How do I cherry pick some of the topics? What do I do to cherry pick? Let me select a highlighter over here. Okay, how do I cherry pick? What topics I need to prepare? Let's assume that for the most of you, 90% of the folks are going to be studying in the last minute. They may not be well prepared. Most of the students like me might be opening the textbook for the first time in this last 48 hours or last 1 week. And it's a lot of confusion and last minute prep, and which is okay. That's what engineering is all about. How do you crack it in the last minute without focusing much on the depth of it, but still you can be fine. That's what engineering is all about, and that's what it prepares you for the life, and that's okay. So what do you do? And if your objective is to just clear, you say, hey, you know what, I just want to clear my paper. How do I prepare for that? And obviously you know, and you are smart enough that you cannot cover everything, okay, on the last 2 days, last 3 days, last 1 week, because it's not possible. So what topic you should focus? That's your $1 million question. What topic you should focus? Okay. The way I would think about this is for the students who are in the last minute prep. Okay. See, trigonometry is going to have predominant weightage. Okay. So you cannot ignore that. So I think you have to focus on that. I'll focus on that. Okay. But trigonometry, certain sections are going to be tricky in terms of the solving and all those things. Let me select this. Hold on. Let me just get a pen again here. Okay. So sometimes some problems of trigonometry are going to be tricky where you have to understand the formula and all those things, but the weightage is too much, so you cannot completely ignore that. But let's focus on the other topics and let's come back to trigonometry. Okay. Matrices and determinants, relatively high weightage, relatively easy to solve. And since you're going to get only for 1 mark, you're not going to get time consuming. Matrices and determinants by nature of it are very time consuming. But since you're going to get only for 1 mark per MCQ, they cannot put a lot of time consuming questions. So I would say you should definitely focus on this. This is a great catch, and it's very easy to understand. Even if you go in the last minute, we can quickly understand. If you go through my crash course, I guarantee you that you can understand the whole matrices in 30 minutes, not more than that. Just 30 minutes crash course, I put it. Just check that out. There are 18 episodes and you will crack it. 100%, I can guarantee you. Statistics, I would say completely skip because it's a very dry subject, although the weightage is more. If you're not prepared by now, it's the weightage is more, and it's difficult to consume. It's very dry, and if you're not touched it, don't worry about that. Ignore it. Similarly, straight line, it's going to be tricky. It's slightly spread out, and the questions could be tricky. And if you're not prepared, it will be very hard for you to prepare in the last minute. I would say drop that for now. Don't worry about that. Mensuration, like matrices, it's very easy. It's formula based, and you can rot or memorize the formula. And possibly I'll try to put another episode today, later tonight, to understand how to easily remember or memorize the mensuration formula. Although the weightage is not great, but even if you get half of it for 5 marks, that's 5 marks done. So I would say attack this also. Partial fractions, I've already put the episode and videos, and a lot of you guys are watching it. So I'm assuming that it's relatively easy also. So I'm assuming you can focus on this. Logarithmic, the weightage is not that much. I will not focus on that one. So the way I would focus is only on these 4 topics, like I have highlighted here. Okay. So trigonometry, matrices and determinants, mensuration, and partial fractions. In this, the only exception is trigonometry, the weightage is more, but there are going to be some tricky areas to understand, so you have to navigate that. And if you're struggling with that, you do as much as possible in trigonometry, and rest you don't worry about that. For example, inverse and all those things. Sorry about that, let me get a pen here. For example, inverse of a trigonometric function, those things you can ignore and focus on the easy ones. But rest, matrices and determinants, whatever I highlighted in blue, mensuration, partial fractions, you can pretty much cover the whole syllabus. So a combination of some part of trigonometry that you understand, that comes naturally easy to you, because you can also use the calculator. That's another advantage of trigonometry. So some part of trigonometry that naturally comes to you, and for the most of it, matrices and determinants, mensuration and partial fractions, if you just focus on this four, assuming that you don't have much time to prepare for the last 48 hours, you can give that much time for preparation. I think you should be in the safe zone in terms of clearing your paper or slightly getting above the clear my zone also. Okay, now let's move on. Now some of the generic tricks for time management and how to save time. Okay, the first thing is your exam is going to be for 60 minutes, right? The first thing that you do is in a mobile or in your stopwatch or in your smartwatch, whatever you have, start a timer or set an alarm for 40 minutes. Okay, so that as soon as it's 40 minutes, the alarm should buzz and you should know that we have got only 20 minutes, and then those 20 minutes you should play like a T20 where you've got last 12 balls and you have to hit. Okay, and then you have to understand what to hit and how to save the wicket. Okay, that's what it is. So I would say set up an alarm for 40 minutes and focus on that, and your strategy for 40 minutes should be different than the strategy for 20 minutes. That's the first thing. And some of the tricks how to save time on some of the questions. Okay, the first trick is putting back the answers in the question. What does it mean? For example, let's say typically in matrices, determinants and trigonometry you can do that. Let's say I'm taking an example of Kramer's rule, okay, and you got to solve for x and y, and let's say the options given to you A, B, C, D are the values of x and the values of y. Okay, they are given the values of x and values of y. Now one way is Kramer's rule. By and far is time consuming. Maybe for 2x2 matrix it might be relatively easy or less time consuming, but for 3x3 is definitely time consuming, and if you have to find all the values it might take a whole lot of time. Okay, so what you can do is, instead of solving it, actually you can take the options x and y, and any equation that is easy, right? You will have equations. Pick up the equation which is very easy, which might have 0, which might have just one coefficient, or which is easy to calculate mentally. Pick up any one equation out of the given equations, any one. Okay, and what you do is take these values x and y, and if it's a 3x3 you might have z also. Take these values and put back in this. For example, if this says x minus y is equal to 4 and the value is given to you, x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 1, okay, just try to substitute the values. X is 1, y is 1, that is equal to 2, that is equal to 0, and that is not equal to 4. So this option is not true. Okay, so substitute the values that you have got till the left hand side matches the right hand side. That might be a faster approach, and as soon as you get a hit, don't proceed, select the answer and move on. So if you're lucky, you might get the hit in the first choice itself. That saves a lot of time. Okay, so that's how you trick the system when you solve some of the questions. Just see if whatever question is given to you, you can put back the answers and then solve it. So that's the first tip that I would suggest for you guys to do it. The second is a method of elimination. Okay, again, let's say you have got 4 choices. Okay, over here, let me take an example. This is typically true for topics on partial fraction and mensuration, which you should attempt. Let's say you have this question: the factors for the denominator polynomial in this equation. What are the factors for that? That means you're talking about denominator x square minus plus 4. And let's say for some reason you're not able to factorize, you're struggling, you don't know what to do, and they're given the factors, right? You know, if you multiply these factors, open up the brackets, it should match to x square plus 4. Okay, it should match. So what you can do is, if you're struggling, start opening up the brackets quickly and see if it matches. For example, if you take the first one, x plus 2x minus 2, and it is almost like a square minus b square, and it will be like x square minus 4. But this is not the same as this because you have plus here. So this is ruled out. So you can quickly start opening up the brackets and checking each one of them. And wherever you find the answer, you can select that. In a way, you're not solved the problem, but you're eliminated quickly whatever is a wrong choice. And that's how you can select the solution, right? For mensuration and partial fractions, this trick might work. So just think about the problem. And it could also work for other topics generally. But just take a minute, take a half a second to split and think, okay, can I do some tricks here to solve the problem? Okay. Trigonometry, right? If they say find the value of this, and if you don't know how to identify, put a trigonometry identity, okay, don't break your head, okay? Just take a calci and just calculate it manually. You might get some approximate values. Check out the answer A, B, C, and see where the approximation is there. Because when you use a calculator, you might get a decibel like 4.14, and while you solve in the ABCD mode choices, they might give you as a fraction 11 by 4. So try to match that and then move on. Okay, that's how you use it. So these are some of the hacks that you can do faster if you're struggling, or even if you know the topic very well. You can use these hacks to save time. Okay, time is of essence, always remember that. Okay, so that's some tips and tricks on time management and how to save time. Let's move on. Okay, the MCQ exam strategy. Okay, now this is what I would give as guiding principles, general guidance to all the students. And typically there will be two types of students and they will have two types of strategies, but I'm just going to combine that. So what are the types of students? It says strategy, but it's like it should be students, right? Okay. What are type of students? Okay, one is for the first strategy is for students who have done everything. Okay, this is strategy. This is not students. Sorry, I was right. Sorry about that. So this is like, okay, the first strategy is for students who have done everything. They know they have covered everything. They have been studying and they are very comfortable with all the topics. They cannot pick and choose. And that is going to be typically less than 15% of the whole student population. Normally people don't study like that. Okay, but let's say they are the first category, which is still a minority, I would say. And the majority category, which is 90% of the student population, are going to be folks like us, right? Who don't have time to do everything, who are not comfortable with all the topics equally, and who generally kind of struggle with maths. Okay, this is going to be the second category, which is what is the bulk of folks for which I'm putting the videos. Okay, but still, since it's MCQ, if it was a theory paper, I would have defined the strategy slightly differently. But since it's a MCQ, I'm going to still keep the strategy very same. And each of these categories of students, based on where you belong, you can pick and choose what works for you. Okay, the first important thing is timing is key for both. Okay, for both the guys, you just keep a target of 1 minute for each question, and you set up your timer and alarm for 40 minutes, and you just say, okay, within 1 minute I have to solve this problem. Some questions might need more time. There is no debating that. So automatically you might be going to 1.25 minutes to 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. Okay, but the target that you set is for, okay, within 1 minute I should solve these questions. And if you're setting a target for 40 minutes, you're trying to shoot 40 questions in the 40 minutes, which is possible. But if it overshoots, you have the remaining 20 minutes to cover up. That's the reason I said target for 1 minute and set up an alarm for 40 minutes. Okay, that's your first key. Timing is key. Second is looking at the question, right? Don't try to solve it immediately. Just understand for a split second, is this question going to take time? Even though you might know how to solve, but is it going to take time because of the steps and whatever is involved? And if that's the case, right, do not attempt that first. Keep it for the middle of the section or towards the end, because just try to solve a lot of questions which will, because the weightage is still same, you're going to still get the same 1 mark. Okay, so why waste your resources on lengthy questions when you can possibly have other questions out of the 40 which might be less time consuming? And that's the reason I told you, directly click on the question and check whether it's lengthy or not, and attack the easy ones, the straightforward ones, and the non-lengthy ones first, and then go to this. Okay, that's your tip number 2. And how do you generally apply for each question or each topic, right? The first thing that you need to do is focus on all the questions that you are really prepared well. Okay, whatever is the topic. For example, I've showed you here what topics you should prepare if you're a last minute person, or let's say even if you're a smart student, you have studied everything. Focus on the questions that topics that you're really prepared well. In case, let's say if you're a last minute guy, whatever is highlighted, some or all of these highlighted topics you must have really prepared well. So focus on that, and then just attack those things first. Okay, that's attack those things first. Then what you do is focus on questions that you can save time on. Let's say you've got 4 or 5 questions you're prepared well, but you picked up a question that you can really save time. It's nothing that you have to apply. It might take less than a minute to solve, like I told you in the first step. Take those questions and attack those first, and then solve the remaining ones. What is the third trick? Focus on questions for which you can verify the answers easily. Okay, like I said, right, you can verify the answers easily. Like for example, this one, solving Kramer's rule. You have the choices, and you can always put back the choices in one of these equations and verify the answer. Similarly, over here, you can quickly get the answer. So wherever you can verify the answer, that gives you an extra insurance. Get those things out of the place in the third step. Okay. Then focus on questions. Like this is the last but one step. Then focus on the question. Let's say by the time you do these first 3 things, you're crossed, let's say 20 minutes of your time. or out of your 60 minutes, okay, of your 60 minutes. So after that, let's say you focus on questions that you know how to solve, but it's going to take time. So you're not under pressure and you're taking your own time to solve and you're getting it slowly. There is no way that you can verify the answer, no verification. So you have to go slow so that you don't do calculation mistake and you pick up the right choices. So next, the fourth strategies, or the fourth in terms of the sequence, that's the fourth one that you get. And let's say now you're done with this. Now let's assume that you are done with everything. Your 40 minutes, 45 minutes is up. Let's say even 50 minutes is up. You're up 50 minutes. Now you have the last over 10 minutes. And let's say you have got few questions waiting, which you're marked for to be reviewed later, which you don't know what to do. Now what do you do that? Now you have to do a educated guess, okay? That's what you can do. Because either you don't know what to do, there is no time left, you're stuck without getting the right answer. Then you make educated guesses saying that what could be the answer. In that you can apply this method of elimination, right? What could be the answer possibly? You can do educated guess and move on. In this case, the method of elimination, you can straight get a straight answer, so you don't have to keep it for the last minute. But a lot of cases you will not know. So focus on the method of elimination. Don't randomly select any question. Just say, I don't think this could be the answer because of this reason. And you'll be able to easily do that because some of the answers are so obviously incorrect that you will do that, okay? So those are some of the exam strategy that I would recommend strongly for students from both the categories, the minority smart and the majority average and above average folks, okay? So focus on that. All right, last but not the least, this is the end of the video, okay? So what I would suggest for you guys, okay? Last minute, okay? You just have 48 hours, okay? Right now on the clock. So stop checking more new content and go on a discovery mode and figure out any videos and notes and books and keep browsing. Stop that and stop getting distracted, okay? Stop this, stop it right now, right away, stop it. Even it could be this video, you can stop it. Focus on what you have already, what you have liked so far, whether it's a book, it's a video or a note or working with a friend. Whatever you have done so far, just focus on that, okay? Just take that and double down on that one and stay at it, okay? Always remember, less is more. You don't have much time to prepare. Unless your objective is to be in the top of the class and get everything. If you're not done that, you don't have much. So less is more. Whatever you prepare less, focus on that and try to get the best out of that. Like I said, whatever topics are highlighted, just focus on that. Few topics, but focus on that, okay? And you'll be fine. And last but not the least, guys, good luck. And just say to yourself that I am gonna clear my paper, and you will clear your paper. Good luck, and let me know how you fare in the exams. Take care.